Hello all. So lately I personally have been approached many times in regards to the question, something along the lines of like, what are the best in slot Azerite traits for Balanced Druid? Many questions along those lines. So before I jump into it, this video is not like a ranking system of traits, nor will it really tell you whether you should take item level 310 Streaking Stars versus, I don't know, item level 340 Dawning Sun, or whatever. However, this video will explain how to choose for yourself what you're looking for, so you shall become more informed than the average player, and really allows you to understand how to make the best decision early on in the expansion in regards to traits. There will be a TLDR at the end of the video with quick recommendations if you really don't care, but honestly I'd advise watching the video through, especially if you don't know what to do, and especially if you are asking yourself constantly, what do I take here? So before anything happens, let's discuss the balance specific traits and what they do. So on screen here is a list of the traits, and they are as follows. So first off we have Dawning Sun, which is Lunar Strike increases the damage of your next Solar Wrath. Next we have Streaking Stars. When casting 2 spells in a row that are not a repeat ability while affected by Celestial Alignment, you'll proc a Streaking Star dealing damage. Lunar Shrapnel. Starfall does extra damage to nearby targets that are affected by Moonfire. High Noon. This increases Sunfire's direct damage and its radius. Power of the Moon. This increases Moonfire's direct damage and has a 5% chance to gain a Lunar Empowerment on cast of Moonfire. Sunblaze. Solar Wrath increases the damage of your next Star Surge. And then finally we have Lively Spirit, which is balance and restoration specific, which is after you cast Innervate on a target, whenever it expires, you gain an intellect buff for 20 seconds based on the amount of spells your innervated target has casted during the duration of the innervate itself. The most important thing I can say about the balance specific traits is that since they impact your base kit directly, they are far more likely to be better when stacked on top of one another. As for what stacks and what doesn't, the percent chance increases do not stack, such as the 5% chance to proc an extra Lunar Empowerment from Moonfire on Power of the Moon, that doesn't stack. The bonus radius on High Noon also doesn't stack. However, the damage itself scales with all the other traits. I will elaborate further on the traits required a bit later, but do keep this in mind when continuing to watch by comparison to the generic traits that I will discuss. So first off, we're going to talk about single target, as this one's a bit more complex and confuses many players, even including myself whenever I first was trying to go through it. I'm going to go through some of the traits that you generally should be looking for and the synergies provided, but you should really always sim yourself for a one-to-one comparison on pieces of gear for your everyday use. I'd suggest using the top gear function inside of raid bots as a good starting point, and I'll link a guide from Wowhead in the description as to how to use raid bots if people are interested. Anyways, as for balance specific traits, the only notable single target traits are Streaking Stars and High Noon. So first off, Streaking Stars. We're going to jump into that one, as is one of the more useful traits and one of the best single target traits for balance overall. So Streaking Stars is incredibly powerful and turns the cooldown of Celestial Alignment into a very meaningful one. Streaking Stars on the pole will generally make up something like 50 to 60% of your damage with 2 or 3 traits within your burst window, just to put it in perspective for you guys. This trait will also be a good solo trait, as it does not impact your playstyle too terribly much. However, whenever you have 2 to 3 of these traits, you do alter your casting sequence when inside of your Celestial Alignment just a little bit. If you do not have any empowered abilities, then you will cast your Solar Wrath into a Sunfire as opposed to into an unempowered Lunar Strike, and then again into a Solar Wrath again. This is semi-unintuitive, but nevertheless a slight increase in damage. Do also keep in mind that Incarnation Chosen of Loon does give a 33% reduction to Streaking Stars damage, as for it to average out with Celestial Alignment as a whole. So if you're deciding whether to take Incarn over Celestial Alignment, it should be encounter specific, not trait specific. Now moving into High Noon. High Noon as a trait is poorly designed overall, and it just really increases the direct damage of Sunfire. This really allows you to spam Sunfire as your filler on single target, and alters it into the best single target rotation. This trait is 100% all or nothing. If you don't have 3 High Noon traits, this trait is going to be mostly worthless for you. Please do not take it if you don't have 3 High Noon traits and understand what you're doing. So how this changes your playstyle is that you spam Sunfire, and then whenever you have enough Astral Power for Star Surge, then you'll cast Star Surge. This means you do not cast any empowered spells or anything else. Unfortunately, this rotation altering trait only becomes beneficial whenever you have 3 of them, and is rarely profitable at an item level loss. However, once Uldir opens, and if you somehow get these traits at a higher item level from your Mythic Plus box or whatever, then the Sunfire spam on single target for incredible mobility will be highly useful as a whole. But as it currently stands, it will see very limited use in dungeon content in its current state. The talents associated with something like this will be Force of Nature, Incarnation Chosen of Loon, Twin Moons, and Shooting Stars. So now we're going to move on and discuss the generic traits for single target that have notoriety. These traits are not rotational altering, nor do they require much thought. They are very easy to distinguish and do not require stacking to be effective as a whole. A few of the top traits will be shown on the screen, however you really should sim your own traits to determine what is worth taking. These traits are as follows: Thunderous Blast, Dagger in the Back, Raisin's Fury, and Tidal Surge. These traits are all good for single target and do not have any stacking requirements, making them significantly easier to mix and match overall. Do also note that Dagger in the Back is about 70% as effective from the front, so just something to keep in mind. So with the conclusion of those generic traits, now is the time to move on to the multi-target traits and how they function. Similar to the single target section, the multi-target traits have a few niche traits that impact gameplay as a whole for Moonkin, but a little bit less than the single target ones. The two notable multi-target traits for balance are Lunar Shrapnel and Power of the Moon. So we're going to start with Power of the Moon as the most complex conditions of the two balance-specific traits for multi-target. Power of the Moon increases the direct damage of Moonfire, and thus, when paired with Twin Moons, has some interesting interactions. Similarly to High Noon, this trait is all or nothing as well. This meaning, if you don't have the correct setups or don't play it correctly, then it will be significantly inferior. Like, don't play one High Noon and one Power of the Moon, spamming Sunfire on single target and then spamming Moonfire and AoE. It just really will not work out for you well. So on two targets, this is really worth taking 2 or 3 Power of the Moon traits and spamming Moonfire is your only spell. No Star Surge, no Starfall, just Moonfire. This means that if you have 2 high item level Power of the Moon traits, it will probably be decently worth to pick up the third as well, at a pretty big eye level disparity to get all the Moonfire damage you can out of 2 targets. This trait will be one of the only ones that taking a decent item level disparity will sometimes be okay, so just keep that in mind whenever you're deciding what to take. So if you have 3 Power of the Moon traits at a decent item level, then spamming Moonfire on 3 and 4 targets will generally be profitable as well, so keep that in mind. This rotation is just Moonfiring and Starfalling when enough Astral Power is generated, and then using Empowered Lunar Strike whenever generated from the Power of the Moon trait itself. This is not a great idea to take a large item level chunk for, but simming Top Gear will generally be your best bet for specific damage profiles that you're looking to simulate. The Simulation Craft APL is up to date, and will generally give you correct answers as when you should take and equip this gear at item level disparity on 2, 3, and 4 targets. So as for talents, you go Force of Nature, Incarnation, Twin Moons, and Shooting Stars on 2 targets, and then on 3 to 4 targets you'll swap Force of Nature to Nature's Balance, and then Shooting Stars to Fury Balloon. So now moving on to the other notable balance AoE trait, and it's Lunar Shrapnel. This trait all around is decent on 3 targets and above as you're using Starfall as your primary filler. This trait as a whole does not have stacking restrictions, nor does it have a rotation altering changes, but do keep in mind that if the targets are spread too far, then Shrapnel might not be the best option, as it does have like an 8-yard range on the cleave itself. So then some of the generic multi-target traits that are decent are Blightborn Infusion and Champions of Azeroth. These traits give stat increases and do decent amounts of work on multi-target. They also have the added benefit as to not having target distance limitations such as Shrapnel or needing trait stacking such as Power of the Moon. So with the conclusion of that, this is going to be jumping into the TLDR. So the TLDR of this video is Streaking Stars, High Noon times 3, or generic traits such as Thunderous Blast, Raisin's Fury, Tidal Surge, or Dagger in the Back for single target, and Lunar Shrapnel, Power of the Moon times 3, or generic traits such as Blightborn Infusion or Champions of Azeroth for AoE. So all in all, Azerite Traits have strange interactions with the base Moonkin kit, unlike most classes who normally just take generics or have very limited interactions as a whole. Nobody can really guess what traits are the best for you, and it's going to be really hard for people to eyeball traits in the current state of the game. My personal best advice is for you to sim your own character and to kind of understand the interactions between some of the balance-specific Azerite traits, which is kind of what I hope to provide today. And so I hoped everybody kind of learned something from this video and feels more informed as a whole. Thank you everybody for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe. I'm going to put my Twitch, Discord, and Patreon down in the description, so make sure to check that out. And if anybody has any more questions, I'm normally available on Discord pretty regularly, so feel more than free to reach out to me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you have a great day.